If you're new to Siege or you simply want to improve your gameplay on defense, then this is the right video for you, because in today's video, I'm going to be teaching you one tip for every defensive operator in the entire game. So let's get this thing rolling, starting off with the first operator, Sentry. Sentry is an operator meant to be played in many different ways, but the best way to actually play him is simply support. I recommend running bulletproof cameras and proximity mines or barbed wire, as playing full intel is going to not only help you, but it's also going to help your team, meaning that you're going to win way more. Smoke is an operator that should always be played to waste time, as each of his babes can individually waste 10 seconds off the clock and heavily damage anyone trying to push through them. They're perfect for changing the pace of a defending round, because if you feel like the attackers are getting way too much map control and they're pushing in way too hard on the defenders, all you have to do is throw a single smoke babe and boom, you just gave your entire team 10 seconds to recuperate, reset, and you just slow down their push. Mute is one of the best operators on defense, and he arguably has the best loadout, as he has the best shotgun in the game and one of the best secondaries you can get on defense. Because of his strong close quarters kit and his ability to block out any intel on defense, it makes him really strong in highly contested areas. I guarantee you, holding down areas like Trophy on Oregon or Connector on Night Haven will get you free picks on Mute shotgun. Just make sure to use your jammers to actually back you up. Castle's barricades are great at creating map control, and they're also great for blocking off lines of sight for the attackers. A perfect example of this in action is on Clubhouse. Say I'll have a teammate that wants to bandit trick the main breach over here by Jim. Well, what's going to happen is he's going to be very vulnerable to this window right here. So what I can do as Castle is I can simply just hook him up with a barricade right here, and it fully blocks off the line of sight of whoever's playing on the window, and it gives the bandit map control over the breach. So the number one tip I have for Castle is to start placing his barricades wherever your teammates are most vulnerable. Poles can be really effective from below if the attackers don't know you're playing him, as if they do, then you're going to get roam clear to Narnia, since they're going to bring a Demo, the Jackal, a Dokkaebi, an IQ, or any other operator that can roam clear effectively. So during the prep phase, make sure to stay hidden and don't reinforce any walls and run away from sight, as if you get droned, then you basically already died. So do not get found. Doc is by far the best operator on defense, and it's not even close, as he has the MP5 being the best SMG in the entire game that has an ACOG. He has a bailiff that can easily make any rotates, and he has his stims that basically make him nearly unkillable. But for some reason, many people think that Doc is a support operator, even though he has so much frag potential, and it makes no sense. Roaming on Doc is actually a very viable strategy because you can always just stim your teammates from below. However, this only applies to sites that the floor is mainly wood. For example, any site on coastline, any site on border, any site on Clubhouse, etc. Just make sure you don't get first picked on the roam and you'll be alright. Now, moving on to Rook. Honestly, there's not really much to say about him aside from the fact that you should always be placing your Rook pack down very early in the prep phase, and you should also be reinforcing a lot, as you have no utility to place down other than your Rook pack, and that takes about 2 seconds. So make sure to set up sight and anchor since you have no utility. With the addition of gas canisters spread throughout the map on every single map that's been updated throughout SiegeX, maps like Clubhouse, Border, Cafe, and Chalet, Capcan's actually gotten a pretty big buff because of it. Since the gas canisters, when they blow up, if there's anyone nearby it, they immediately blow up and die. Like, no matter what health they are, no matter what operator they are, they will die no matter what. But the only issue with them is that they actually take many bullets to blow up, so it's not very easy to kill someone by just shooting at it, you know what I mean? But that's where a Capcan comes in, because if you place a single Capcan nearby a gas canister and someone walks by it, it's going to blow up the nearby gas canister and it's going to give you a free pick. So start placing Capcans nearby the little red valves or whatever they're called. Just trust me, you're going to get free picks out of it. And you also don't have to place double Capcans on it, so win-win scenario. The Jonka's job is to stall the attacker's push as much as possible, so you should always be playing in the heart of the site to try and stall them for as long as possible. Just make sure that whenever you do this, you play behind cover and you bring something like a shield to help you out. For example, if you place a shield right here on 2nd floor Oregon, you can just play around it the entire game and you have full access into blocking off Trophy Door, you can block off White, and you can also block off the default plant by just simply wall banging your fire off of this little wall right here. As you can see, it gives you a very powerful position to play from throughout the entire game, and it keeps you behind cover with the shield and the walls, etc. Now that you can ban every single wall denial the entire game, it makes it very hard to keep walls closed, because not having a bandit or a Cade forces you to get creative to, keep the walls closed. So here's a little strat that you can do on Jaeger if you want to keep the interior walls closed. All you have to do is place a Jaeger right in front of the breach and keep it hidden. So for example, on Villa, if I place 2 Jaegers right here in front of this couch, the ace can't throw his ace charges from the balcony and it's going to close off the wall. You can also do this on the breach nearby 90. Just make sure to place it right behind this little fallen cabinet or whatever, and boom, now the ace can't charge it from the window. So in case the attackers decide to ban every single wall denial, which they most likely will, you can always just play Jaeger. Bandit is very good at keeping walls closed, as he can always just get around any Callies, Thatchers, or EMPs simply by tricking the wall. The only problem with that though is that bandit tricking is actually quite dangerous. That's if they have a thermite and you mistime the trick, you're just going to get blown and you're going to get the wall open and you're going to sell your entire game. So to help you bandit tricking, all you need to do is really just shoot holes in the wall. If you shoot one hole on the left or one hole on the right and one hole in the middle, or just holes anywhere on the entire wall, it's going to make the sound much clearer, and you're going to be able to hear where the thermite charge is actually getting placed or where the ace salmos are getting thrown. So make sure to shoot holes in the wall before you actually reinforce it. Frost is typically very easy to counter, as her mat placements can be very predictable at times. But if you switch it up and start placing the mats in the middle of stairs or hatch drops, you can actually get some pretty easy picks. For example, if you place a mat right here in the middle of the red stairs on Villa, you can literally just, it's the easiest picks ever. Like, no one's ever going to look at it, and it's also almost impossible to see unless you're directly like ADSing in the middle of the fucking floor, and no one does that. On Coastline, when you're defending Penthouse, the bathroom hatch almost always gets popped and people tend to drop it. So what you can do is you can just place a mat right here. The debris from when the hatch pops is going to cover the mat and it's going to give you an easy ass pick because no one can see it. So make sure to start placing your frost mats in very hidden places and also just switch it up as a whole. Valkyrie is hands down the best operator to play on defense if you want some free intel, as she can place her cams wherever she wants, but people still play her wrong for some reason. Most people tend to think that Valkyrie is an anchoring operator, but that's simply not true, as she actually thrives on a roam since she can have a teammate help her from inside, or she can just flip the cams by herself off site, as it takes literally 4 or 5 seconds to get the intel. So my biggest tip for Valkyrie is definitely to start roaming and use your cams to your advantage. Make sure you flip them every at least 20-30 seconds so you can get some intel, or whenever you can just reset. Ideally, you don't want to be on them too long though, because people will try to roam clear you with Dokkaebi or an IQ. When people play Caveira, they tend to rat in corners or hide throughout the entire round so they can get an easy little sneak interrogation, but that's not really what you should always be doing on her. If the attackers know that you have a Caveira on your team, it literally instills fear into their hearts because they don't want to get interrogated, so they start droning out quite literally everything in the map. Use that to your advantage. Since you already have that ghost pressure applied, they're going to expect you to be off site. Never underestimate how powerful Cav can actually be in sight. For example, if you're defending bedroom and you know that there's people pushing con, what you can do is you can just activate your silent step and full swing them because they're not going to hear you. She's really strong, especially with her 2-tap pistol, so start playing her in sight. My number 1 tip for Echo is to stop ratting and flipping cams throughout the entire round because you're achieving jack diddly squat. Instead, start using your echo drones to drone out for your roamers and support them on the roam. Use one drone to help your roamers out and use the other one to deny plant, because that way you'll have a nice balance of being useful throughout the round and being useful in the end of the round too. Stop using default setups on Mira. When people play Mira, they tend to place her utility in the exact same spots every single time they play her, making her really predictable and easy to counter. Instead, try placing one default Mira and then pocket your other Mira and use it throughout the round. For example, if there's someone pushing on the blue hatch, what you can do is pull a Jinxie and start roaming on Mira. Now, remember that pocketed Mira that I told you to keep? Well, this is where we're going to actually use it, because what you can do is you can actually go on the stage and there's going to be a soft wall right there. Past that soft wall is actually where the hatch room is. And if you place a Mira on it, then you can get an easy pick on whoever's playing above the hatch. There's many other ways to use pocket mirrors, but that's one of the most effective ways to do it. Most of the time when I see people playing Legion, what they end up doing with their traps is just chucking them wherever they see fit, in the middle of doorways or in the middle of a hall. You should never be doing that. Instead, start placing your Legions on somewhere that's much more hidden and out of sight. For example, underneath this default plant right here on Chalet on the 2nd floor, you can throw a little Legion mine and then break the floorboard, and boom, now the Legion's underneath the default plant and they can't see it. Or you can start placing your Legion mines on the left side and right side of doorways, as the radius of the Legion mine is still enough to hit them. No matter what though, you should never be placing your goo mines in the middle of a hallway or in the middle of a doorway. That's very dumb and it's always going to get shot. For Ella, I highly recommend saving a Grismont mine in your pocket in case you have a shield like a Blackbeard or a Montaigne, or they're planting bombs somewhere you can't see them, as the Grismont mine fully counters any shields and it also stops the defuse from being planted. As Vigil, your goal is to waste as much time on the roam as possible and slow down their push. When attackers drone during the prep phase and find out that the other team has a Vigil, they tend to drone much more throughout the round. Now, typically this would be a bad thing if you just wanted to play for kills, but if you want to play to actually win a game, that's actually good for you, because the more time that these attackers spend droning you, the less time they actually have to push the site. Just by allowing yourself to get droned during the prep phase, you're going to keep the attackers on edge. So make sure to allow yourself to get droned droned. Because if you do that, I guarantee you they'll try to drone you out and they'll waste at least a minute or two off the clock before they even start getting a true take on the site. As most of you guys should know, Maestro's cameras are basically impossible to crack, with the only way you can crack it being punching the black part of the camera. Now, it's not too big of an issue because you can usually just look up and the black part is not exposed anymore, but that's actually not true. If you place the Maestro cam incorrectly, it's very easy for the attackers to literally just walk up to it and punch the black part because there's a little sliver that you can actually punch off the side. Instead of just placing the cams at head level, start trying to aim as high as possible so the cam is unable to get cracked by melees. As you can see, with the Maestro cam above head level, it's impossible to actually get an angle on the side. My number one tip for Alibi is to start running the default cosmetics on her so you can actually do the Alibi trick. If you use cosmetics like any gun skin, headgear, or uniform, it's going to be impossible to switch places with the Alibi clone, as it's going to be very easy to tell that you're not actually a clone. So make sure to run default cosmetics. This clash tip is actually very well known, but if you use your shield and you place it down, it becomes very vulnerable to any explosives. But if you pick the shield up as there's explosives being thrown at it, like an ash charge or a nade, it makes the shield indestructible. So make sure to start using this clash tip to keep your shield alive and healthy. On many sites, playing Cade decides whether or not you'll win that round. For example, if you're holding down basement on Clubhouse, playing Cade is actually pivotal to keeping those hatches closed. But the problem is, most of the time people bring EMPs or nades or anything to get the Cades off of the hatch. So what you can do instead is play mind games on them and make them not run any impact EMPs and think that you don't have a Cade on your team. All you have to do is hide throughout the prep phase and then place your Cade claws late. If you think it sounds dumb, this is literally tech that has been used in Pro League matches, so give it a shot. When you play mods, your whole goal is to prevent intel and use it against them with pests. But people get too lazy to actually place their pests correctly. Always place your pests on the sides of windows and doorways so that the attackers can't shoot them. I can't stress this enough. I see people playing Mozzie all the time and placing pests in the middle of doorways. Why would you ever do that? It's just gonna get shot out. On Warden, you should always, and I mean always, be anchoring in sight. Warden can't be stunned, he can see through smokes, he has the two best guns in the game, and he also has a C4 in his pocket. His ability makes it very hard for him to get flashed out or flushed out of any location in the entire site, making him a really hard obstacle to get rid of during attack. So make sure to stay in sight while playing Warden. This strat on Goyo is simple but effective, and I guarantee you it'll get you at least a few picks. All you need is a Goyo canister and a friend playing Melusi. What you need to do is you both need to look at the exact same place with your utility out and then place your gadgets at the same time. What's going to happen is the Goyo is going to go right on top of the Melusi and it's going to make the Melusi unbreakable. And if they decide to pop the Goyo, then they're going to die because of the Melusi, since it's going to slow them down and they're not going to be able to get away in time. So use this strat for some free picks. Just like Jaeger, you can also use Wamai for wall denial, but he's even better. Since you can throw Wamai's pucks outside without them getting destroyed, what you can do is you can chuck them outside of a breach right after the prep phase ends, and it's going to catch any ace charges or any thatchers being thrown at it. This works especially well on Chalet Basement because you can hide it right here on these little wooden railing things. I don't know what the name is, but you can hide it right there under a little wood. All right, moving on to Oryx. Usually, he's a pretty bad operator with little to no utility to provide to the team, and he typically doesn't even manage to like counter any shield ops because they just pull out their gun and they just absolutely fry him while he's dashing at them. So instead of mindlessly dashing at them, what you should do instead is you should bait a run like this and then back off and pull out your gun. Because when shield operators see a Oryx just fully running towards them at full speed, they're going to think that he's gonna dash. So that's where you play the mind games and then you stop moving, whip out your gun, and then you shoot them in the head. Trust me, it's gonna work 100% of the time, easy pickings. Melusi is one of the strongest operators on defense because of her banshees, but the problem is she can oftentimes be very predictable with her placements, making her very easy to counter, as you can just throw an impact EMP, a nade, an ash charge, any type of explosive, and it's pretty much gone. So what you should do instead is switch up the placements. For example, you can place Melusi's below the area where like the attacker is going to be walking in from, say big window right here in Oregon, and if you shoot the floorboard, the Melusi still activates. So that's the tip for Melusi. Just switch up her placements and don't be predictable, because otherwise you're going to be getting your util took within the first minute of the round. Start using a Rooney for more than just blocking off utility from coming through doorways. What you want to do instead is start using her gadget on the other side of breaches so that aces or thermites can't get the wall. This works especially well if you run out and then put the Aruni gates on the outside part of the wall. For example, right here on Night Haven, what you can do is you can pre-make a rotate hole on the left side of the wall and then run out, place both of your Aruni gates, and then close it off. So trust me, start placing your Aruni gates outside of breaches. It's going to help out Bandit or anyone tricking a lot. And sometimes it can even close off the wall as a whole. On Thunderbird, you should always place 1 or 2 Kona stations next to a site rotate to make sure that you help your teammates that are rotating away from site or rotating back into site. And then you should place your other Kona station on an area in site that most anchors tend to hold. So for example, if you're playing bank, you can place one behind the long desk, or you can place one behind the small desk in the B bomb to make sure that your teammates are always getting help. Stop playing Thorn for kills and instead start playing her for sound and to scare people. When people see razor blooms going off on their screen, they have 3 options: 1, shoot it; 2, run away; or 3, double down and run up. Most of the time though, people tend to back away, so you can take advantage of that and then just swing them while the razor bloom goes off, because they're going to be turning their backs to you and you have a free pick. But if they choose to double down and swing you, it doesn't even matter because you still have the advantage in the gunfight, since they have an uncomfortable position now as they have a razor bloom panicking them. So start playing her to scare people and for the sound. When you play a zombie, you should always be playing in the most contested areas of each site. So for example, if you're playing CC, you should always hold rafters no matter what, as her keyboard allow her to create new angles that the attackers literally have no idea how to counter. But if they do know how to counter it, you need to get creative on her too. And you can do that very easily as she has 5 keyblades to her disposal. So trust me, if you want to be a good as zombie, you need to start holding down contested areas. And I mean heavily contested areas. Now that Solus doesn't have any impact EMPs, the best way to actually play the Nile on her is to run shotgun below. Her shotgun allows her to basically do the exact same thing that she used to do with the impact grenades, but honestly, the only thing that's changed is that you have to be a little bit more accurate on the diffuser. So make sure to start running the shotgun if you ever want to play Solus. It's the much better option. Fenrir is hands down the best defense operator in the entire game. The only problem is many people tend to play him wrong and place his FNATs in the worst possible places. Ideally, you should always have your FNATs extremely hidden. For example, these trash cans right here, you can shoot the top and you can place the FNATs inside. Always place your FNATs in very cheeky spots. You can search them up on TikTok or you can look for them yourself. Either way, just make sure that the Fenrirs are hidden. Tubarão is by far the most versatile defender in the entire game. So my tip for him is to genuinely start abusing his versatility. He has the strongest DMR in the entire game, a C4, and his ability can do literally just about anything. From delaying breaches to deactivating any electronic in the entire game, he is absolutely overpowered. So because he's so versatile, be very flexible and take advantage of the versatility. Scopos is, in my opinion, the strongest roamer in the entire game. She's basically like a roaming dock. The only difference is she can literally teleport. But the big mistake that I see people making on her is that they always place her other body in sight. That is a terrible idea and you should never do that. Scopos is a roaming operator, meaning that you should be roaming basically the entire game and wasting the attacker's time. By teleporting back to site, what you're going to do is basically give him full map control. You don't want to do that. You want to set your other body on the opposite side of the map that you're deciding to roam in, because they're going to think, oh, he's teleporting back to site probably. No, what you're actually going to do is you're going to teleport and full flank them from the middle of Bumblefuck Narnia. So trust me, set your body on the other side of the map that you're roaming in. If you made it all the way to the end, make sure to drop a like and subscribe because this video took a really long time to make. I'm trying to hit 3K by the end of summer, so every single sub counts. That's really all I wanted to say. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.